Hi, my name is Amelia Does. I'm going to read you some of my poetry today and perhaps a story or two. First, Amsterdam, the ABBA version. This was a chapbook that was published in 2019 by Proper Tales Press. Me too. My body cloned. Me too is staring dumbly into my eyes. I don't know what's on her mind. She has dressed herself like a Swede in the 70s, big blue bell-bottoms and a bell-sleeved red velour V-neck sweater. This ABBA me is excited to go out. I'm scared. The ABBA version grabs my bus pass and phone. She takes photos while out and messages them to me. At night, I put her in pajamas and tuck her into bed. There was meat. There was meat to its legs, bone and meat that made the other parts be above the ground. Carrying meat packets without much of a brain to read maps is hard. Still, there was meat to its legs, and the packages always arrived on time, not rotten, and the thing was pat on the head before it ran away. Let's try something a little more serious. Your idea. Your idea of kindness is driving a garbage truck through an abandoned building. Your idea of prosperity is globs of peanut butter flung on the ground for pigeons. Your idea of intelligence is a moth trying to find its way out of an unlit house at night. Your idea of respect is leaving a newspaper at the door of a house where no one lives anymore. Why don't we go to the Ham Harp? This is my newest chapbook published by Above Ground Press. And let's find out what a ham harp is. The Ham Harp. It takes time to make a ham harp. You can't buy one, and they are rare. A side of ham is sliced thick and strapped to a bridge that no one will cross for years. The sun, wind, and rain hollow out sections of it, leaving a strummable skeleton. It will have the sounds of heaven in the bridge and the canyon from where it is made. I'm going to try a little three-parter about the Great West Steakhouse. There used to be, in London where I live, wonderful buffets, and they're all gone. They were probably at their height in the 80s, where you could get the whipped butter and roast beef and brunch and French toast and sausages. So it's called buffeting or buffeting. I get confused. I went looking to find support at a buffet. Thought it might buffer me from the trouble. Got a 3-pound plate of potato salad, jello, roast beef, bread, and whipped butter. My table was in the back, so dark, so far away from the food I carried it, behind velvet long drapes tucked away. There was a phone in my booth. A call is 5 cents and leads to God, a direct line. Part 2, dessert. Again, I am confused. I went to the dessert table looking for a hot, dry place to rest. Came back with more jello, cakes, puddings, and mints. There was no sand. Resurrection, Part 3. This became tiresome. It was in fact special, but I was harboring interest in following it without question. In this restaurant, I had discovered a transcendental vortex, however obscured by whipped butter and eggs. At the end of the meal, I had opted in. I was full and now understood life again. Alright, so that was the Ham Harp. I'm going to read 2 new poems that I wrote just the past few days, inspired by Billy Ray Belcourt. Billy Ray Belcourt is a genius First Nations writer from Driftpile, Alberta. I guess part of why I was so inspired by his work is I lived on the border of the Stony Plain Reserve when I was quite young, and during my childhood until I moved here to London at age 6, I was pretty free. We were very poor, but I was always out on the land, and I don't know, perhaps that's why I really love First Nations writing, because I can kind of relate to some of the things that they talk about and experienced. So this one is called, I'm thinking of creating a chapbook or something called The Impossibility of Blame. So this poem, it's a short one, but that's kind of the title I've given it. The Impossibility of Blame. How is blame useful? It is impossible. It goes nowhere. It goes in the throat and wreaks havoc on the self until it is realized, transformed, expunged, and magic comes in to fill the space in there. This is a poem about when my father and I we drove down to Banff, and he said, let's go to this gas station. And I was like, why do you want to go to this gas station? And he said, because it's First Nations people run it, and it's just a fun place to hang out. My dad's kind of a drifter cowboy guy. He's a busker, so he kind of likes observing life, and he can nap anywhere. I'm so jealous of him. So anyway, this is two in a car waiting. Driving down to Banff, we stopped to hang out at the gas station. There are two guys up on the hill, sitting in an old sports car, till customers come. Then it's down the hill, pump the gas, back up the hill, into the car again. It's summer and it's not cold out. Inside the store there are signs. They are all funny. I couldn't decide. I wanted to buy, but I didn't. My dad's outside on the bench having a sandwich, laughing. It's 4 p.m. The sun's about to go down, and we sit. It's summer and it's not cold out. So this poem, last poem I'm going to read today was, I don't know if some of you are probably familiar with this, I'm new to it. You take a poem and you just kind of let it inspire you and you respond to it. So I don't claim to be the author of this poem, it's just an exercise, but it was so powerful I wanted to share it. It's called Brother and Sister, after Billy Ray Belcourt's NDN Brothers, from his book NDN Coping Mechanisms. Amazing book. Illness finds me high in an old Billy Ray Belcourt poem. What is hidden is that wherever I am, my brother and sister are lodged in my throat. We are 44 and have been too old for decades. Last night felt like our last night. They always do. This is what makes night black, an imposter nation against the literature of trees. Behind the wheel of a car without driver, the night is hard ice, and we cry into it, into where the mystery of quiet meets the mystery of death. Today, the Ministry of Harassment of the Poor withheld our rent, food, and medication. With extraterrestrial powers, they went on vacation and clogged my 16-year-old throat with anger. In defense, we broke into cars and took the house of humiliation and starvation. Don't blame us. Our last $20 is sunlight breaking apart inside the skull. So I think I'm going to close by reading a happy story from my book, The Walking Tree. It's, I think there's 7 stories in here. It was illustrated by a local artist, a friend of mine. So this is kind of a sweet and sappy story. My writing has a range. It's called Apricot Lessons, and this is the image. Once upon a time there was an apricot tree. It was spring and the little apricots started to grow. One of them was confused. I don't know what I am or what to do, she said to the tree. The tree replied, You are my child and you are an apricot. The small fruit thought about this and went to sleep. The next morning she said, What does an apricot do? The tree yawned, stretched his leaves and branches, being careful to cradle all the young ones so they did not fall. The tree said, An apricot grows sweet in the sun, then is picked to be enjoyed, returning back to the earth. You do not have to do anything at all, my love. The little apricot felt momentarily confused, for she would never know the things that the wise tree knew. But she then trusted her elder and accepted her predicament, soaked up the sun's rays, the morning dew, and the food from her tree. She saw the beauty of the orchard, insects, butterflies, and animals, and of her fellow apricots as they turned beautiful colors under the sun. After the summer was over, she still found herself on the tree. She fell on the ground and was rested for a time under a tuft of grass. She missed the tree, but she was just underneath. As time passed, she became more part of the earth. The following spring, the little apricot sprouted a branch and found herself turning into a tree not far from the one from which she started her life. Every apricot has a different path and purpose in life, she said to her older tree. Does that make us different? She asked, for she was still young and learning. No, we are all the same, the older tree said, but you have become a tree. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're all having a nice and restful and happy December. If you're interested in talking to me or collaborating or showing me your work, or you want to make a purchase, please check out ameliadoes.weebly.com or find me on Facebook.